The four main topics that we will be discussed are resources, capabilities, core competencies, and competitive advantages.
Competitive advantage sustainability is a function of three factors. The first one, the rate of core competence obsolescence because of environmental changes. The second one, that is the availability of substitute for the core competence. And the third one is the immobility of the core competence. The challenge is to effectively manage current core competencies while simultaneously developing new ones. When firms are able to do this, they can expect to achieve strategic competitiveness, earn above average returns, and remain ahead of competitors in both of the short and long terms. A global mindset is the ability to analyze, understand, and manage an internal organization in ways that are not dependent on the assumptions of a single country, culture, or context. Analyzing the firm's internal organization requires that evaluators examine the firm's entire portfolio of resources and capabilities. Value is measured by a product's performance characteristic and by its attributes for which customers are willing to pay. Firms create value by innovatively bundling and leveraging their resources to form capabilities and core competencies. Components of internal analysis that are resources, including tangible and intangible, capabilities, core competencies, discovering core competencies, competitive advantage, and strategic competitiveness. Discovering core competencies have two types that are four criteria of sustainable advantage: valuable, rare, costly to imitate, non-substitutable. And the second, that is value chain analysis, including outsourcing. Making decisions involving the firm's asset, identifying, developing, and protecting resources, capabilities, and core competencies may appear to be relatively easy. The challenge and difficulty of making effective decisions are implied by preliminary evidence suggesting that one-half organizational decisions fail. Three conditions: uncertainty, complexity, and intra-organizational conflict affect managers as they analyze the internal organizations and make decisions about resources. Conditions affecting managerial decisions about resources, capabilities, and core competencies. Uncertainty exists about the characteristic of the firm's general and industry environments and customers' demands or needs. Complexity results from the interrelationships among conditions shaping a firm. Intra-organizational conflicts may exist among managers making decisions as well as among those affected by those decisions. Resources cover a spectrum of individual, social, and organizational phenomena. By themselves, resources do not allow firms to create value for customers as the foundation for earning above average returns. Tangible resources are assets that can be observed and quantified. Production equipment, manufacturing facility, distribution centers, and formal reporting structures are examples of tangible resources. For energy giant Kinder Morgan, its stock of oil and gas pipelines are key of tangible resources. Meanwhile, intangible resources are assets that are rooted deeply in the firm's history, accumulate over time, and are relatively difficult for competitors to analyze and to imitate, because they are embedded in unique patterns of routines. Intangible resources, making these difficult for competitors to imitate or to analyze. Knowledge, trust between managers and employees, managerial capabilities, organizational routines, and as we know, the unique way of people working together, scientific capabilities, the capacity for innovation, brand name, the first reputations for its goods and services, how it interacts with the customers, the employees, or the suppliers that we know as intangible resources, and also the organizational culture.
The firm combines individual tangible and intangible resources to create capabilities. Capabilities are often based on developing, carrying, and exchanging information and knowledge through the firm's human capital. Example of firm capabilities are in human resources, their capabilities is to motivating, empowering, and retaining employees. An example of firms is Microsoft. And in management, their ability is to envision the future of clothing. And the example of firms are Hugo Boss and Zara. Core competencies are capabilities that serve as a source of competitive advantage for a firm over its rivals. Capabilities that are valuable, rare, costly to imitate, and non substitutable are core competencies. Core competencies help firms to gain competitive advantages over their rivals. Capabilities failing to satisfy the four criteria are not core competencies, meaning that although every core competence is a capability, not every capability is a core competence.
Value chain analysis allows the firms to understand the parts of its operation that create value and those that do not. The value chain is a template that firms use to analyze their cost, position, and to identify the multiple means that can be used to facilitate implementation of a chosen strategy. 2. Value chain activities are activities or tasks the firm completes in order to produce products and then sell, distribute, and service those products in a way that create value for customers. Support functions include the activities or tasks the firm completes in order to support the work being done to produce, sell, distribute, and service the products the firm is producing. To become a core competence and a source of competitive advantage, a capability must allow the firms to either 1. Perform an activity in a manner that provides value superior to that provided by competitors. 2. Perform a value-creating activity that competitor cannot perform. The value chains often requires building effective alliance with suppliers and sometimes other to which the firms outsource activity as discussed in the next sections, and developing strong positive relationship with customers. When firms have strong positive relationship with suppliers and customers, they are said to have social capital. Evaluating our firm's capability to execute its value chain activities and support functions is challenging. Earlier in the chapter, we note that identifying and assessing the value of our firm resource and capabilities requires judgments. Judgments is equally necessary when using value chain analysis because no obviously correct model or rule is universally available to help in the process. Outsourcing is the process of a value-creating activity or a super function activity from our external supplier. Deciding to outsource to a foreign supplier is commonly called offsourcing.
Alright, and the case is a state-owned airline Indonesia with the concept of a full-service airline. PT Garuda Indonesia is the first and largest airline in Indonesia with a serve-oriented approach. Garuda Indonesia aims to be the landing service provider for tourists in the country as well as providing. The factors causing the increase are increase in scheduled flight revenue and other income. And there are revenue maintenance and repair of other airline aircraft, grow revenue, travel, and grow hunting revenue, information technology revenue, catering service growth, and training income. The profit and loss column show PT Garuda Indonesia in every year from 2016 to 2019 19 suffered loss due to the decline in revenue from scheduled flights. Debt repayment increased operating costs and additional costs associated with extraordinary transactions.
The disclosure of the Garuda Indonesia case began with a report by the Minister of SUIS, Erick Thohir. Recently, Erick Thohir suddenly met Attorney General Sanityar Burhanuddin to report a case of alleged corruption in the leasing of the Garuda Indonesia ATR 72 Strip 600 aircraft. Attorney General Sanityar Burhanuddin revealed that temporary state loss due to the alleged corruption case in the procurement and leasing of PT Garuda Indonesia aircraft reached 3.6 trillion. Burhanuddin explained that alleged corruption case for the procurement and leasing of PT Garuda Indonesia aircraft had been raised to the investigation stage, although it had not been followed up with the determination of the suspect. According to Burhanuddin, the AGO investigative team has found sufficient evidence to raise the case to the investigation stage.